we're gonna get back at it today. Are you gonna wear your hat?
No, I'm not gonna wear my hat.
You say that each time.
I want people to see my new haircut.
Oh yeah, it's great. But I think we love the hat more.
This hat, I'm retiring. Right
You're
here.
retiring.
I'm retiring.
You said you were.
Right there.
You said you were gonna get a new hat.
I'm gonna get a new one.
But
okay?
you said that for like a month.
Okay.
Where is it, huh?
Folks,
where is it?
Listen.
I don't see it. I don't see it.
You're listening to In the Jungle with Jungle Jim Hunter, and it's my show. So I don't want to wear a hat. I'm not wearing the hat. And I'll tell you what, you can send us an email or a text message or whatever you want to do. Send us and ask us whether you want me to wear the hat or not.
Yeah.
And we'll see that I'm right and that Cole's wrong. So just get over it.
But you're getting a hat for next time.
I'm going to get it if I can find one the way I want to wear it.
Right.
The one that I was nicknamed the name for because of the hat. That's what bothers me is it's not the same hat.
Oh.
This is like a African safari hat.
Okay.
What I was wearing was this white pill box hat.
Are you a hat expert or something?
No.
Well, you should go find a hat.
I know nothing about hats.
Okay, confidence. We're back on this again. So we talked about confidence last time. You said it was the window in doubt's door was your big point. What are you thinking about confidence today? What wisdom do you have for me?
You know, that what I wanted to do was take this a step further and understand that, yes, the door is the door of doubt. Remember, I mean, if you haven't
when you
listened
make a decision, it's the door, right? You have to go through the door.
Right. When you make a decision, every time you make a decision, as soon as you make a decision, any doubts you have creep in.
Right.
But your viewpoint of what you do with it has everything to do with your confidence level to do it.
Of the doubt coming in. How do you see the doubt coming in the room?
And well, doubt comes because it's automatic that you're just going to think about the fact that, can I do this?
Right.
Am I prepared to do this?
Ask yourself
Do I have the ability to do this? Do I have the talent to do this? And
it's automatic, always.
It's always automatic. It happens every time you do something.
Even you.
Everybody.
Yeah.
I do it. Right? As you know, I was away for a week.
Yeah.
And I was driving in downpour of rain. And I could see the look on my wife's face as we're driving in this downpour of rain in bumper to bumper traffic at 60, 70 miles an hour. I mean, there's doubt. Am I going to get hit?
Right.
Am I going to hit somebody? Is somebody going to freak out and jump on the brakes? Or, am I going to anticipate it soon enough? So it's, the door of doubt is always there when you have to make a decision, and you have to make a decision to do the best thing you possibly can to make sure that you don't get yourself in bigger situations and tougher situations. But the problem for most people is they don't realize that where does doubt start to come from? In a daily basis, we make somewhere around 70,000 decisions a day.
Right, in our heads.
In our heads.
That's crazy.
And we carry on a conversation with ourselves about things that matter to us and that are important to us. And if you are climbing a mountain of a dream that you have of where you want to go, the easiest way to take you off track, to stop the climb, is when a moment of doubt comes and you lack the confidence to do it. Remember, the definition for confidence is believing in what was made. And it all comes down to what you believe about yourself, about what you can do. And if you don't believe you can do something, you immediately create a doubt that creeps in under the door, through the hinges, through the keyhole. Maybe you even open the door to say, I can do this.
Right.
And then you suddenly go, can I? I was teaching my grandchildren how to ski this weekend. We had a great time, and I was teaching them how to roll on, roll off, which is part of learning how to stop when parallel, and how to be able to stop instead of being in this very uncomfortable position in a snowplow position.
No pizza. You're not a fan of the pizza.
Which is, I hate the pizza. It's the worst. It's the worst thing that any ski instructor ever came up with respect to the guy that invented it. I'm sorry,
but you don't like it. Jungle's not a fan.
But I don't
of the
like
pizza
it.
Guy. Yeah.
Kids are like that when they learn how to skate. What do? They go like this.
Right.
Right.
That's what I do when I skate.
And all you have to do is learn how to roll on and roll off your edges and get comfortable with it.
Right.
You're going to snowplow and fall. So why not do it the right way right from the beginning?
It's going to fall anyways. Might as well do it right.
You're going to fall it. You might as well fall right.
Yeah.
So my point is that as soon as we arrive on a piece of slope that was steeper than something they'd ever done before, even though the variation was just slight, you could just see the doubt.
Right. I can't do this.
And
I can't stop.
I'm going to go too fast. I don't know if I can do this. And it's normal. And we think that these kinds of things are silly in many respects because we go, I can do this. What am I afraid of?
Yeah. I can go bench 225.
Exactly.
What am I afraid of? Then I put it on the bar and I'm like,
not going to do any work to get it.
Okay.
That's
a different podcast.
We'll do that one eventually. But Cole, what I want you to get today, what I want you to understand is I want to walk you through, and we don't have to do all of them.
Right.
But there are real, I guess I could put them in the category of myths that people have that they believe are true about confidence, and therefore they actually talk that way to their children. They talk that way about it to themselves. They talk that way to the people they work with. They talk that way with the ones that they love.
And they're believing lies.
And they're believing a lie. And literally, like the word con is, you get conned into it. You actually con yourself and convince yourself that you don't believe in what you have made. There is no athlete in the world. I want to tell you something of how powerful this is. At one point, and I don't know if I can remember the number, so I'm just going to say it. It's enough times that you've got to understand. I have the research and I could pull it up if I had it on my screen, but I don't have it handy with me. But there was a time when John McEnroe.
Who the heck is John McEnroe?
John McEnroe was a great American tennis player.
Oh, cool.
And he was the brat.
What does that mean?
He was. No tennis player has ever been like him. He was a brat because he would come out and try to intimidate his competition by acting like he was the spoiled brat of the world.
Oh.
And so he would look at the ref and go, "What? Are you kidding me? That was in. Look at it. It was right there." And he would do everything he could to intimidate the ref. And everybody thought, is this guy going to be able to play? It was all an act. It was what he did to throw the other guy off, wondering, should this be this way? What do I do with this guy? I'm just standing here waiting for him to get over his temper tantrum. And Ivan Lendl, who was an up-and-coming tennis star.
Right. So what year was this? So just for frame reference. 30 years ago?
We're talking 70s, 80s.
70s. Oh, so ancient tennis players. That's older than my dad, man. That's old.
Now you're going to say I'm ancient. Gee, that is so unfair. That's so unkind.
Okay, sorry. Okay, continue.
Yes, they're ancient. It's long past when you were born.
Right.
But the point is that it was something like this. It was 16-1 for John McEnroe every time he played Ivan Lendl.
Right. Wait, what does that mean? Do you get a point every time you score? Or like
No. When they would play a match, game, set, and match, every time Ivan Lendl would lose to him in a finals.
Okay.
In a semifinal. Because Lendl was that good. He was always in the quarterfinals, semifinals, and the finals of Wimbledon and the US Open and the French Open. I mean, they played clay, grass, and hard court.
And he was just the man back in the 70s.
And he was just rocking. One of the best.
Right.
But when he played John McEnroe through his tactics and his method.
Right.
And so Ivan Lendl, he sat down one day and he suddenly looked at this window of opportunity that he knew was coming, that he was going to play John McEnroe again.
Right. So he's lost to him like 16 times.
Yes.
And so he's going to play him again. So he's getting ready.
Not only is he going to play him again, but he hasn't ever beaten him.
Oh, yeah, right.
And he wants to overcome this.
Right.
And automatically you would say, okay, what do you do in that situation? The automatic thinking is he's not good enough. But Lendl was good enough because he could beat everybody else.
Right.
But with John McEnroe, he couldn't.
Right. The spoiled brat.
And then one day he realized that every time he pictured John McEnroe and the fact that he, according to the way the draw was and everything goes the way it goes, when they go from, 128 tennis players down to 2, they're going to meet. And every time he conned himself into saying, I don't know what to do. I can't beat him. So one day he took out his journal. He wrote it down. I know I have the skill to defeat John McEnroe.
like lines, just wrote it out.
And he repeated it. Sometimes he would write a whole page of, like a sentence in school that a teacher would give you. He would write a whole page of saying, I have the skill to defeat John McEnroe.
Right. I have a lot of experience writing lines as a child. I will not push my brother down the stairs.
Talking about you,
oh,
okay?
Sorry. Right.
This
my fault.
In the jungle
Yeah,
with Jungle Jim
you can't
Hunter.
continue. My fault.
Okay?
Yeah, all right.
It's not in the jungle with Cole, although he thinks it is.
Okay.
The truth is, Ivan Lendl started writing this out, and it was every time he'd look in the mirror, he would look at his eyes and he would say to himself, and the reflections coming back through the window of his eyes, and he's saying, I have the skill to defeat John McEnroe.
Right.
We go now to the end of both of their careers. And now the record is 19 wins, 16 losses.
To the guy who wrote
To the guy that used to beat him and was ahead of him 16-0. And this was all after he started saying this.
Right.
The point is, we con ourselves into it, but we believe some myths. And we haven't even talked about the myth yet. But you have to understand, confidence is a state. It's an assurance. It's a belief in the power you have in you to do what you have to do. It's a certain air of arrogance. And if you ever watch somebody who's confident, they have a bit of a cocky swagger about them.
Yeah, they're arrogant. Yeah, naturally, just because they believe in
they're
themselves.
kind of like you, but different.
They actually have confidence. I pretend I do.
Well, I didn't want to say it, but now that you've said it, yes. And finally, they actually say to themselves, I can do this, and you can't stop me. So it's a state. Now, you change your state of being every time you come up against this question of doubt. Can I do it? Can I not do it? And so when you have a state change, that affects you emotionally. That affects you physically. That affects you technically. You've probably heard the term, or many people have heard it, is, oh, that player is gripping the tennis racket too tight, or he's gripping his stick too tight. And kids can do this. You see this with kids. I've worked with, as you know, hundreds of kids, and you see kids practice and shoot. And I will give them a drill where I used to do this, where I would only place a canvas in front of the net, and I would say,
for hockey?
Yeah, for hockey.
Okay.
And I'm going to give you 10 inches to put the puck in the net. And I said, I want 10 in a row before you can move on to the next level.
Oh, so you have I get it. You have challenges for them.
So
certain
I've
spots.
got these challenges for them, and they're all shooting, and everybody's shooting. And suddenly a guy will go, I got 10 in a row. I want to go to the next level. And so I move him to another 10, and I go 8 inches. Now, a puck is 2.5 inches, about 3 inches wide.
Right.
Unless it's on edge, it's only an inch wide. But it's about 3 inches wide. So, when you go down to 8 inches, you lost 2 inches from 10 to 8.
A square, like an 8-inch square?
Yeah.
8 by 8, okay.
Yeah. And it just goes around the net.
Oh, like in the edges.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah.
And underneath there's a place where the goalie's pads are, so that there's a 5-hole, what they call a 5-hole.
Right.
They go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 is in the middle.
Right.
And they can shoot anywhere, but they have to hit all 5 of them in their 10 shots.
Right.
And so kid gets to 8, and all of a sudden he starts to grip the stick tighter. Now he's trying to be more accurate. And I can see it. And I go, shoot the same way you did before. Then when I ask them why they can't do it, they go, well, I don't really want to say, like I don't know if I should say it. And I go, oh, tell me. And finally the kid will say, well, it's like when my mom and dad come to the games. They'll always say, don't shoot it at the goalie. Don't miss the net. Mm-hmm. I say, how does that affect you? And I go, every time I go to shoot, I say to myself, don't hit the goalie. Don't shoot it at the goalie. Don't miss the net. Mm-hmm. And so I'm trying as hard as I can, just like I'm practicing here. I'm trying to just relax, but I can't do it. Cole, until I change his first response to people that say those distracting things, he is going to be uptight.
He's going to be nervous about it.
He's going to be nervous about it. He's going to grip the stick too tight. We all do that. And it requires me then to go to the parents and say, you have to change your language because your language is affecting your child. And I don't know about you if you've ever tried to help parents, but they don't want your help.
Nope.
They don't like your help. They don't want your help. And they don't want you to tell them that you want to give them some help.
Right.
But here's what's interesting. The parents that embrace the help and they start to do what Ivan Lendl did, where they write down what I told them to say, rather than doing what they shouldn't say, all of a sudden when they change, the kid starts to change.
Right. Oh, because how they, Interesting.
So if I use as a parent closed-end questions when you come home from school or from a game or from a practice and you go,
did you do this? Are you good? Like, did you score? Like,
no, it's closed-end questions that trap us.
What's a closed-end question?
And a great reporter will never ask a closed-end question.
Like a leading question?
No. A closed-end question is where you start with the word why or what.
Oh.
Because when you go, why did you do that? You require that person to try and develop an answer instantly that satisfies the way they're trying to think if they're someone that is learning how to be a person that is confident.
Wow.
And
okay.
And so when you come home with a report and you give your mom and dad, when you were a kid, you gave them a result from a math test or from a science test or from something that you don't do so well at, and they look at it, they go, Cole, come on. You knew this stuff. What's wrong with you? Why this? Why?
Yeah, why did this happen?
Why didn't you study more? And the more you do that, the more you're bombarding them into negative habitual communication. And I hate to tell you this, but not only do you have to work out, and I've told you this before, but I don't think you got it yet.
Right.
You have to work out to lift 225. But you also have to train just as hard to change what's going on up here in your communication.
Yeah.
Because when you think of the next number you have to live, you're like the kid. You're going to grip the bar too tight, and the muscles get tight, and then you can't do it. Because the state of negativism always takes you away from what you want. Any statement of fact that you say to yourself, any feeling that you have that is negative takes you away from where you want to go. But if you switch that to optimistic, doubt screams right away and puts his hand up and he's going, hello, can you listen to me? You've never done this before. And you have to train him to get out of your head. You have to train him to stop talking to you.
Interesting. Yeah, well, I guess that makes sense. Like if you think about a kid coming home from school and the parents are like, why'd you get a bad grade? Why? Then you now have doubt about doing the test because there's now like a negative emotion around it.
And so I started to look very carefully to see what is going on. Why is it? And this was true of any sport that I work with, as you know, 21 different sports.
Right.
And all of them succeeded. But to turn them around, I had to figure out, okay, what is happening here? And here's what I found out. Who takes a child to practice? Mom. Do moms ever say negative things to their child? Almost never.
Right.
But who goes to the games? Dad.
Right.
And dad takes them to the games. And here's the difference. Mom says, you did so well today. Wow. Cool. You lit it up. You were putting the puck in the net every time it was on your stick. And you're going, yeah, I'm free. I'm free. I'm free. I can do this. I can do this. Wow. I have the belief in myself. I can do this. I have a sense of arrogance about myself. I have this swagger. I can do this.
Swagger.
You can't stop me. And then dad goes to the game and he says, whatever you do, don't shoot at the goalie and don't miss the net.
Right.
Why do you think I let you practice in the basement where the net's on the cement wall and you've been shooting pucks that it's black now because the pucks have made the wall black? You've done the work. Now, dad's trying to be positive,
Right.
but he's actually being destructive. And because it's a state of being and it has to be optimistic, the child has to naturally expect the best possible outcome.
So wait, what does that mean?
He has to expect that what he can do will work
Right.
and that he has the ability to do it.
And so if you keep saying, "Oh, don't do this. Oh, don't miss this," right? Then
It becomes your first response.
that's what you're thinking about.
Remember, I've talked about this before. First responders don't come to the patient dying and bleeding on the sidewalk and say, I've never taken care of that kind of an injury before. You'll have to get somebody else.
Call someone else. I'm late for work. Like, yeah.
He doesn't walk up and say, I can't do that.
Yeah, can't help you. I don't know how.
He has to be prepared and trained to say in himself, this is the situation. This is what I know. This is what my training is. I'm often reminded of this, and this is a bit of a story. We haven't had a story yet today, but
Story time.
Warren Witherall,
Who
who
is Warren
started
Witherall?
Burke Mountain Academy. You don't have to know who he is, but he started this back in the 70s.
So it's this Warren guy.
Yeah. He was a headmaster in one of the best private schools in Boston.
Oh, cool.
And he went skiing for the weekend, and he got on a chairlift sitting with Leith Lind. Leith Lind was an up-and-coming ski racer, and she had raced, and then the lift broke down, and she's sitting there in her downhill suit just shaking like this because she's in this downhill suit that was only about that thick, and she had no jacket because they raced down, and she was going back up to get it. And the ski patrol comes along and says, figure out how you can warm up, folks, because we're going to have to evacuate all of you from the chairlift with a T-bar seat, which means that they throw a cable over top of the cable, and you put that between your legs.
Oh, yeah, I've seen those.
And you trust the guys on the ground, the ski patrol's on the ground, and the maintenance guys to let you down to the ground.
Right.
And it is terrifying for the average person to think
imagine.
about sliding off that chairlift with this T-bar between their legs, this seat. And he says, for you guys, because you're 2/3 of the way down the hill, it's going to be at least 2 or 3 hours before we get here.
Right. That's a long time.
And Warren Witherall says, you're not going to make it, are you? And Lee says, no, not really.
Okay, so Warren guy is sitting with the ski racer lady
The ski
who's
racer.
cold.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's with a great big down puffy jacket.
Right.
And if you ever met Warren Witherall, he was 6'8".
Whoa.
He's a great big tall guy.
big
He had
guy.
a great big puffy coat. And he says, I don't know about you, but I think what I better do is undo my coat. Let's kick our skis off so we don't have skis on. Let's drop our ski poles because we're not going to need them. And you crawl inside my coat. You're small enough because she was just a small girl. And
He's 6'8".
he's 6'8". He's got enough room in that jacket to keep her warm.
Yeah.
And they started talking. And he says, what do you want to do? What's your dream? He says, I want to go to the Olympics. Lynn said, I want to go to the Olympics. I want to be in the Olympics. Well, what do you need? And he says, I need to be able to ski every day. Why? Because the Europeans ski every day. That's the way they do it. They ski to school. They ski home from school. They ski every day. Mm-hmm. They have lifts over there right next to every little alpine town, and they ski.
Mm-hmm.
Well, where would you go to do that? Well, I've got to find a ski hill that will do that. I got to find a school that will do it. I got to find somebody that would teach me and give me an education.
Yeah. So this is the ski racer lady.
This is the ski racing young girl.
Mm-hmm.
Warren Witherall is a headmaster at one of the best private schools in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, tell me more. Tell me more. And she tells him what he would do. And he, at the end, when they finally got evacuated and they've got their equipment back on and somebody had brought her coats down and she puts her coat on, they turn and look at each other standing there about ready to ski down the hill because the lift was closed for the rest of the day until they repaired it. And he says, here's my card. I'm the headmaster of a private school in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever want to do that dream, come and ask me to do it.
Wow.
Leith Lind showed up at his front door at Christmas time.
Whoa.
And said, Mr. Witherall, you gave me this card. You told me, I sat in the chairlift with you for 3.5, 4 hours. He says, when are we building the sports academy?
Wow.
And he built Burke Mountain Academy, most successful academy in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing.
What's that?
Warren Witherall demanded that every child, because he knew parents were more concerned about education than they were ski success, he knew that they were worried about the education, said that every child will not go on to the next class, the next lesson, until they get 100% on this lesson.
Right.
To this day, that's the way they operate Burke Mountain Academy.
Wow.
And one teacher came in one day and said to him after he had been successful, and Leith Lind was one of the successful ones that went on to compete for the U.S. ski team.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have her record off the top of my head, but I know that she was one of the successful ones.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the parents says, Mr. Witherall, you know, I love what you're doing. I love your fitness standards. You got to reach before you can come to this school.
Oh, interesting.
You know, you can't come here unless you reach this fitness level before you come here. I understand the ski quality that you're all about, but the education thing, my child, you know, she's an average, just above average student.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, does your daughter think that?
So this is one random lady that's just calling the school.
And their child has paid the down payment to go to this school.
Okay.
Right? Because it's before they open for the season, and they're going to find out which kids made it.
Okay.
And if you don't make it, you can come back next year.
Right, but yeah, it's limited spots.
She says, so, you know, I don't know if my child will make it through the whole year because you demand this unreal expectation that they can get 100% on everything.
Right.
And Warren says, let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Let's imagine that you've just had a massive heart attack. And the student who has now become a doctor, who was a ski racer, who graduated from Burke, is looking down at you and he only knows 80% of his stuff. Do you want him to perform a heart operation that requires the most difficult work that you would ever do? Do you want to get on a plane that is built by engineers that only know 75%, maybe 85% of their stuff?
Right.
Well, no. Well, then why would I let your child not have a method by which they can succeed? But you don't understand, Mr. Witherall. My child doesn't have that kind of confidence.
To be 100% perfect.
Like, she struggles with trying to just be average. And he says, you let me worry about the confidence. I'll take care of making sure that she gets 100% in everything that she does. Do you know, Cole, that every student that goes to Burke is offered scholarships for any major university?
That's cool.
Because they know those students are prepared and have confidence in what they're going to do. And these are some of the brightest students in the United States. There's some of the brightest Canadian athletes that go there. And this is how we have to change this first myth. And looks like we're only going to get through the first one today. And that is this.
Yep.
There are too many people that believe this myth that says you either have it or you don't. And they apply that to skill.
Right.
They apply it to confidence. They apply it to ability. And they say, you either have it or you don't. So my child doesn't have it. So why would I put the effort for? Why would I try? But their only solution, because many of these people believe that it's inherited. It's an inherited disposition. I don't have it. My wife doesn't have it. So my kids won't have it. And the thing is, what they've discovered is it can be developed with just the proper training that you work at practicing hard enough whenever you have the situation where there's a penalty for poor performance if you turn that penalty into a possibility. And because you turn that penalty into a possibility, you stop beating it into them or trying to beat it into them. And instead, you show them how to overcome it so that it changes their belief. And when they change their belief, then all of a sudden, they realize they can do it. And this is the first myth I wanted to talk about, was the misconception associated with confidence is you either have it or you don't have it.
And it's just talent. It's just either, you got it or too bad.
You know my story, and I don't want to tell my whole story tonight.
Every single episode.
But I was a smart kid.
Yeah.
But I smashed my head on a cement floor. I end up in a coma. I'm out of commission for 18 months.
Yep.
I'm told when I go back to school that I'm mentally handicapped. And the best thing you can do, Mom and Dad, is maybe he can work on the farm until we see if he gets better.
Right.
I was not going to accept that. Because I knew what it felt like to do what I used to do and what I had worked so hard to learn how to do, because my father and mother had taught me how to work hard, that I said, I'm going to change this. Confidence is a state. It requires optimism, and it requires self-efficacy.
Self-efficacy.
And,
That's a
and
big word.
self-efficacy is a big word. And you know, if you don't have a dictionary right now, don't look it up. I'll tell you enough, and then you can look it up later.
Sure.
But self-efficacy is, you know, you can successfully execute specific behaviors and skills to produce the desired and expected outcome. You have the skills, the technique, and when the situation presents itself of a difficulty and of a challenge, instead of going, I can't do that, you look at it and you say, how do I break it down into small pieces and master each one of those little pieces until finally I can do it? See, here's what changed with Ivan Lendl and John McEnroe. Ivan Lendl started writing it down. But when he started writing it down, it became very obvious to him that his reaction to certain shots that McEnroe hit, he was tightening up before the shot even came, because he knew from watching McEnroe that when he moved a certain way, he knew what shot was coming.
Right. And he's like, oh, this is a good one. He knows what he's doing.
And he stopped and said, well, how would I deal with that if it wasn't John McEnroe?
Someone else.
Same shot, over the ball, backhand,
Right.
that McEnroe was good at. Well, I've done this before. What would I do with it? And suddenly he changed, because as he would play him again, all of a sudden, oh, I hit it back this time. Self-efficacy is being honest with yourself and doing the work of changing from the inside out what you believe you are capable of doing. The quote is this: the
Today's
games begin when the game begins.
The game begins when the game begins.
The games begin when the game begins.
Oh, games begin when game begins.
Right. Because when you start to play, the doors are closed. The door of doubt is closed. And whatever state you're in at that point deals with it instantly in the moment. And with your eyes, you determine if you're confident enough to do that shot in a split second. I had the good fortune of being able to ask Bjorn Borg once at a...
Who's Bjorn Borg?
Bjorn Borg was another great tennis player.
Oh.
These are all guys from my era.
The ancient era.
Ancient era. Ancient people. But Bjorn Borg became one of the great tennis players in the world too.
Right.
And I was at a celebrity event that he was at, and I said, I want to ask you a question. I said, when I'm skiing the best I can, it's really funny because I'm going 70, 80 miles an hour. And I know I'm going 70, 80 miles an hour because I know the times and I know where you go that fast. And yet it seems like I'm going so slow. And I'm barely moving. And yet I'm going, oh, look at that snowflake going by. Oh, I better look back here. And I said, this happens. And I know it's a great state. I don't get afraid of it anymore. As a matter of fact, I embrace it every time it happens because I know for the next 30 seconds to a minute, maybe even the whole 2 minutes, I will be doing what I do the best I can do. And he says, you've trained yourself to do it. He says, when someone hits a shot to me and I'm in that zone, I'm in that state, I can see the hairs on the ball in the tennis ball spinning as it comes to my racket, and I see it squash into my tennis racket and poke through the squares, and then I spin it the way I need to, whether it's this kind of a spin or that kind of a spin or over top or underneath or whatever it is I need to do. And I see it as it leaves my racket. It starts spinning.
It's like slow motion.
I hit it just right. And he said, it's when you have trained yourself to be confident with what you're going to do with the situation instantly. And that's what we mean by the games begin when the game begins. Not when practice begins.
Right.
When the game begins, when the games begin, what matters, then the game begins because the door is closed and you figure out how to treat it and what to do with it. You have it. I have it. Everybody has it. Does everybody have it? And can they polish it to the level where they will be world champion? No, because we know this to be a fact, that if you're playing King of the Hill, King of the Mountain, there's only one guy at the end of King of the Mountain. If you ever played in a snowbank,
there's only one person
only
at the
one
top.
Guy standing there.
Not everyone can be number one.
And eventually everybody goes down.
Right.
And there's only one. But it's the guy that puts himself in that position to have an opportunity to become King of the Mountain.
Right.
That eventually, if everything goes the right way, many believe it's an inherited disposition. It can be developed. And the problem with this kind of thinking is that it implies that nothing can be done to eventually have confidence.
Right. That is like, you're either a confident guy that's arrogant like me, or you just don't have it.
Or not.
You're just
And self-efficacy steps in and says, are you telling yourself the truth? High performers consistently develop constructive thinking processes
right.
that tell themselves the truth. And it doesn't bother them. You actually know if you have confidence if when you look at a picture of yourself doing something that you were unsure of yourself, you don't want to look at it. You don't want to see yourself.
Right.
You don't want to look at it twice. You might look at it once. But a confident person goes, play it again.
Yeah.
Play it again. And sometimes the coach will go, why? because they're worried that he's only looking at the mistakes.
Right.
But what he does is he looks at all the things he does right.
Right.
And then he says, okay, we need to fix this and this and this. How do we fix it?
Right.
And this is, I wanted to get this across today because this is the first one. The key is they make commitments to systematically gain confidence as a top priority. It's as important as physical training. It's as important as mental training. It's as important as skill development. It's as important as tactical playing and knowing what tactics to use against what competitor or what situation or where you're involved.
No.
But you have to do it because you learn it, you solidify it, and you benefit from developing successful experiences that eventually play out in the actual games.
You have to be, to have confidence is you have to, believe in what is true, right? And focus on the positives, not the negatives, right? And focus on the right things. Some more, we have a lot of myths we have to still get through. Jungle. We
don't have to do them all, but we can take our time.
There's a lot more myths to go around. This is an interesting topic. We might do a few podcasts on confidence.
Cole, I wanted to take care of these because I faced it with all the kids that I worked with. I faced this lack of confidence. I faced this problem with confidence. How do I get it?
You faced that with me when you work with me?
No.
See, I'm special, guys. I'm special.
With the kids I train. I don't have any problem with you.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm just perfect.
I love you. You just won't do the work. That's my problem.
That's a different podcast.
That's a different subject. I'll have to teach you how to work.
Okay. We'll figure it out.
But the point is, confidence is something that you have to develop as important as your physical training, technical training, tactical training, and mental focus.
Right. It's important. Confidence.
The four wheels on the ground are physical, technical, tactical, and mental.
For skill, as an athlete.
Yes. But the engine that drives them is how confident you are in the four.
Ooh.
The engine that drives your physical capabilities, your mental focus, your technical skill, and the tactical methods that you use as a system to be better is driven by how much confidence you develop in yourself.
Wow.
And
Crazy.
Confidence grows that way because you teach it to yourself. And I want to end it with this so that you understand, because some people say, man, I've got to do this physical, mental, emotional, I got to do all of these.
I got to deal with.
I got to do all of these. And now you want me to learn confidence. The fact of the matter is that confidence should be the center of what you do in all of these, because as you build them, it has an exponential effect on the other three.
Confidence does.
The other four.
Okay.
I didn't mention emotional before, but it has an effect on the other four. And so knowing how to build your confidence is the first thing I wanted to do, was start to dispel the myths that people say, well, I just don't have it.
Right. We now know you do.
And so we've done that and we know what to do. Let's next time deal with the next myth and how it gets in the way,
right? And
how we deal with it. Because if we learn how to deal with these myths that are the blocking rocks, the stones in the field that wreck our field and don't grow crops, because why? Because this rock is sitting on top of the seeds.
Not a rock.
Well, it's a plant, I know, but this rock represents the seeds that are underneath it, and they can't grow through the rock.
Right.
And I want to take those away.
Take the rocks out,
so that we can grow great crops, grow great people, confident.
Speaking about great people, we're about to go do the extended material on Patreon with all the lovely folks over there. So thank you guys for listening. Come join us over there. If you want to hear Jungle speak more about rocks, I'm sure we'll have the most eloquent conversation. Maybe he'll even wear his hat.
I'm not wearing my hat.